Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Krishna and let's continue with the learning of product manufacturing capabilities of SAP Business ByDesign. In this unit, we will discuss the execution of released planned documents. To put things in perspective, in this unit, we will be speaking about the functions produce and delivery from the production process business flow we have discussed earlier. In this unit, we will be primarily discussing the following elements: production requests, production orders, production tasks and their execution, process automation in production, projected material flow, and finally replenishment and removal process. Upon release of the production proposal, a production request will be created which represents a demand in the production. The production request contains the same segment structure as the production model. The release step of the proposal actually means that it is navigating to the execution process, and from the request an order is created. The production order structure contains the same operations as per the model. For example, it can have the operations as make, check and supply. The planned quantity, the scrap factor as well as the earliest start and the latest end of the production order can be changed manually as long as the production order has not been released. Before releasing the production order, the user can check the availability of components by clicking on the button called as Stock and Demand Overview. When the production order is released, the production lot and the tasks are created. The production order then will be in the uneditable mode and only the execution of tasks are permitted. Now, let's discuss about the task and their execution methods. As discussed in the Unit 2 detailing production master data, the task generation strategy defined in the bill of operations shall define the way the task shall be created upon production order release. For supply and the check operations, own tasks are generated upon release independent of the task generation strategy. If the quality control is embedded in the production order, the check task will be created and this task will always be the last task because the system currently supports final inspection in the production process. When a task with an input and output products has been confirmed, the input component inventory is reduced and the output product inventory increases. When the task has been confirmed in full, its status will be set to finished. When all the tasks belonging to a production order have been completed, then the production order will be in the set status and the production lot will be in the set completed status. So let's take a look into the system to understand all these things from the standpoint of system demo. In the earlier unit, what we have done is we have created the planning proposals. Let's take one such proposal and then release it for execution. So let me log into the system. I'm logging into the system again as one of the user. So let's quickly check the status of the planning proposals that we have created in the earlier unit. So I am bothered about my product OS_cartridge. I'll just open that and we see that there is a proposal created for 1836. Let me select this proposal and release this proposal. Okay, it got converted to production request. This is the first step. You release the proposal to create the production request. Let me save it. So to simplify the demo, what I have done is that I have created enough inventory for all the components so that the components are available for the user to consume the components in order to build the inventory for cartridge. So let's quickly go to a stock overview and see the inventory of our components. If you see here, I have created the inventory for ball carrier, black ink and steel stem, and I created inventory of 5000 each. And we have a demand of 200 cartridges. It means that once the production gets completed, there will be deduction of 200 units of ball, 200 units of ball carrier, 200 units of steel stem and 2000 units of ink, because we said that for making one cartridge we need 10 units of ink. Okay, so since we have released the production request, let's go to the production request screen and let's try to understand the document structure of production request. So I navigate to the production control work center and I navigate to the production request and I remember my number 1836. So now if you see here, we have some certain important status: production request status, production order. The production order is not yet created for this request, so the status reads as production order not started, and I have the request number that got released. Let me quickly edit the document to see all the other important parameters that we definitely need to understand in this document. Now we have the statuses as we discussed. It is not yet cancelled, it is not yet closed, and the order is not yet created. And the other important thing is the document flow. In the document flow, I have a navigation from the production request document and I go to the production segments. Here I see very clearly what is the requested start date. If you remember, we discussed about how the dates are computed in the last unit, where the request ended by when I would need the products is on 29th August by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I need to start my process a day before at evening 4:15. The same dates got propagated from the proposal to the production request. Now it mentions that I would be needing the input products, and pay very close attention to the times of the components. We see that ball and ball carrier are required on 29th in the morning 11:40, whereas the components steel stem and the black ink are required a day before at 4:15. Why is that? Because we created in the production model two operations. Operation 1 is filling the ink into the stem, and operation 2 is assembling with the ball and ball carrier. These operations happen in sequence. On 20th August at 4:15, when I am starting with the ink and the stem. Once I complete that, I am taking 200 minutes to complete that, and then I am starting my next operation where I would be needing my ball and ball carrier. So I don't need the ball and ball carrier when I am starting my production. You can always delay the provision of the ball and ball carrier until the required operation of assembly comes into picture, where the ball and ball carrier are consumed. So that's the reason why here when I am starting the production, which is on 20th August at 4:15 in the evening, I would be needing my ink and the steel stem. Once I complete this operation, I will be navigating on to the next day, and when I am going to start the next operation where I am going to assemble everything, that's the time I would be needing my ball and the ball carrier. And hence system proposes the time such that system will not rush you to provide the components ball and ball carrier at the beginning of production proposal itself. So all these dates are computed as per the underlying master data. So master data is very, very important when you are executing your production process. If your master data is intact, 99.99% of the time your production process will be smooth. Now let me go to the output products. Output product just mentions that if I build all the components, if I perform all the operations, at the end of the final operation, I will have my cartridge inventory created in the system. So what we shall do is, right now we will navigate to the next step. From production request, we create the production order. Order is the final document for the execution guys to roll up their sleeves and start working in the system in terms of creating the tasks and executing them. So I am creating the order for the full quantity. The moment I create the order, I will have the information of order that got created here. The order number is 919. Now let's navigate to the order and see what is the details of the order. One thing we need to understand here, when we are having the proposal, the underlying model is the planning production model. Once the document got released to request or order, the underlying production model is the execution production model. Okay, we discussed about two different models in one of the earlier units. So if you see here, the tasks are not yet created because the tasks will be created once you release the production order, and the tasks will be created as per the task generation strategy. We maintain the task generation strategy as tasks by the operations, and we have two operations. So once we release it, ideally I should be having two tasks getting created. But before we release, let's see the structure of the production order. Let me edit the production order. Now, in the production order, before the document gets released, I can edit a couple of fields. I can change the planned quantity, I can change the priority of it, and I can also change my start and end dates. Just because planner asked you to start on 4:15 doesn't mean the execution guy has to start it. Depending upon, he can take the calls on the spot, on the floor, depending upon his convenience and his planning and as per his other urgent requirements. So there is a provision for the user to change the dates before giving it for execution for the operator. But we are not going to change as a part of this demo, but we need to understand such kind of options do exist and the system supports those actions. Okay. System will also allow you to provide the scrap factor in case in your operation there will always be some kind of a scrap percentage during the course of execution. Now in the order structure, I can just expand all. This is the time where you will see all the activities and what are the requirement of the components. I need 2000 units of ink, I need 200 units of steel stem, etc. All the details are captured, and it also tells you when is this operation going to start. If it's going to start at 6:15, how much time is it going to take in total, and what will be the completion of it, and when the next operation is going to start, and how much time is it going to take to complete the next operation. Okay, now let's go to the products. Now if you see the products, system tells me that you need these products in this particular logistic area. As you understand in one of the earlier weeks, logistic area is the place where you will be storing your inventory. And system tells me that when you are building this particular, when you are executing this operation, I want the products in this particular bin. How did system tell me that? How did system come to this particular bin saying that please provide the components in this bin for me to use them in my execution process? The reason for that is, in the production model, when we are creating it, okay, or in the production operations, we are using a resource. And when we are planning a resource will always be placed at a particular logistic area. Let's take a little detour to understand that. Let me go to my resource. We know that we use the resource KR machine, right? So let me go to my resource, okay. Let me go to my master data, resource. And this is my resource. I am just editing the resource to understand what is the logistic area. The logistic area that has been given for the resource is P1100-30. Let's navigate to the logistic area. In the logistic area, I can navigate to the corresponding logistic area, and there is something called as a resource here. It mentions there are two areas here, the fixed supply area and fixed output area. It means that if a resource is positioned at this location P1100-30, then this particular resource will take the input from this bin and will put the output in this bin. So since we have used this resource in our production operation, what system is saying is that please provide the components in this area so that I can consume them. And once I complete my operation, I will place the final product into the logistic area P1100-20. So let's go back to our structure again, production model. Okay, this is my production order, and I can see that all the components are coming from this logistic area. And if I really go to the output product, system tells me that this output product is going to be placed in the logistic area of P1100-20. Okay, in the document flow, you will have a track of how this production order got created from the production request. So let's go to the next step, that is creation of tasks and then executing them. And as I mentioned, the tasks are based upon the task generation strategy, and our strategy is per operation. Since we have 2 operations, once I release this particular production order, I should have 2 tasks created. So I am releasing it. Once I release it, I should be seeing 2 tasks created, one for filling the ilk and the other one for the final assembly. So with that, we complete the production order step, and let's come to the main step of executing. Okay. So let me go to the task control, and I remember my production order 919. Okay. And I have 2 tasks. System also tells me that which task has to be started first, that is the first task of filling the ink, and the next task is scheduled after the first task. So I can select this and I can confirm it. One thing that we need to remember in this process is, right now I didn't configure where a task, who is the responsible for executing a task. There are provisions in the system where you can configure the folders such that when a task gets created, it will be positioned into that folder, and this folder can be assigned to the user. If this folder is assigned to me, when I log into the system, I will find these tasks as my tasks for me to execute. Okay. So, but please understand that these kind of options are available in the system, but from the standpoint of demo, we will directly execute the tasks in order to build the inventory of the finished good. Let me take the first task. In the first task, let's try to confirm it. When I am trying to confirm it, system at the end of first task is not building the inventory of output product, because it is just trying to consume ink, consume steel stem in order to build that small assembly of ink in the stem. That's the reason why there are no output products, but there are primarily 2 input products. Let's try to say that I created 200 such assemblies. The moment I enter 200, system says that I am going to consume 2000 units of ink and 200 units of steel stem. Let me try to save this. Once the operation gets completed, once I know that there is no further open quantity, I can finish this particular task. I finished the task. What is the impact of this? In reality, the inventory of the ink and the steel stem should reduce. So let's quickly go to the stock overview and see whether the stock got reduced for these products or not. So I am checking my products here, and let's see for the ink and the steel stem whether the inventory got reduced. If you remember, we have 5000 units for ink, 2000 got reduced, and the only 3000 units of inventory is left, whereas for the steel stem the inventory got reduced by 200 each. So now when I refresh the task list, system will tell me that the first task operation got completed, so you can start executing the second task. It gives me a green icon. So let me try to execute this. Okay. And then this is the operation which is going to finally build me my inventory. Okay. So let me just go to the input products. See that there is an input products of ball and ball carrier, and there is an output product for the cartridge. Let me say that I am actually going to build only 150 units. Okay. And it so happened during the course of production, I lost 50 units. It can happen, right? I might be losing some product, and if I lose something, I can actually capture it in the scrap. And at this point, the moment if you say this, if you see the impact, the output is for 150, but if you see the impact on the input product, the input is consumed for the entire 200. Because we know that system understands that a total of 200 units are tried to be produced. So the components will be consumed to the level of 200, but the output will only be created to the level of 150 because 50 units went into scrap. The other important thing is that in the production model, you have assigned a resource, and resource will not work on its own. You might have some kind of a services associated with the resource where you can actually record some times for your expense purposes. If I take the activities, I can have some kind of operations, and I can also record the time. How much time you spent in terms of produce, how much time you spent in terms of setting up something. You can record the times as well, such that these times will later on be used for your financial purposes. I'll not be getting too much into details of all those times. Let me just save this particular task in order to build the inventory for the cartridge. And once I'm done with it, you can see the status here. There is no open quantity. The planned is for 200. I indeed tried to produce 200, but 50 went into scrap and 150 came back into inventory. So at this point, what I would like to do is, I would like to finish my task and I would like to take a look at the stock overview. In the stock overview, at this point of time, you should see the inventory of ball and the carrier getting reduced and see the inventory of cartridge getting built. Okay, let me go to the stock overview and let me check my products. And I see that the ball inventory got reduced by 200, ball carrier inventory got reduced by 200 units, and finally the cartridge inventory got built for 150 eaches. Okay, with that we complete the execution process in order to build the product. Before we go back to the slides, the other important thing that we need to understand is, okay, once the order gets confirmed, what exactly are the confirmation documents doing? So let's quickly open a confirmation document to understand it. Let me go to the production order again. Let me open the production order 919, which we are using in our demo. Okay, and then I go to the view all, and then in the document flow, you will see all the details. We see the production request gave rise to production order. From production order, I have the tasks, and from the task, the production confirmation came in. If you navigate to the confirmation will have all the details of whatever you have confirmed, how much you have confirmed, what is the confirmed scrap, okay, and what are the kind of services you have recorded, okay. There is a service that I have recorded in terms of time, okay. So all that information will be available, and the production confirmation will also make a financial posting. When I click on here, system will navigate me to the corresponding journal entry that gets created, which primarily have the information of how many units of inventory and what is the value of that inventory. So let's close this, okay, and with that we complete the execution of the execution process from the planning proposal to the time we build the inventory. Okay, let's come back to the main system. Now, we have understood from the point of releasing the proposal to the release of request, to the release of order, to the release of tasks, okay, and how the task execution will build the inventory. But at this point, we might have felt that there are too many steps in between and how to automate those steps, okay. So there are processes available in the system to automate these steps. Now, in this particular slide, we are primarily speaking about all those automation. There are automated runs available which will help me to create the production request from the proposals, okay. We don't need to manually release it. And there are automated runs available to create production order from production request, and similarly automated runs available from production order to the tasks. Depending on your business requirement, you can take a call on how to release the documents. If I navigate back to the system, in the system you can see in the production control the automated actions: order creation run, order release run, and lot closure run. These are the runs which will help you in automating the actions in terms of releasing the request to create order, releasing order to create the tasks, and at the end, once all the tasks are finished, if you want to close the lot, you can actually close it with the help of automated run. The other interesting part is on the fine tuning. If you don't want to schedule the automated runs, but if you want to put some kind of a configuration which will always release the task upon the creation of order, or which will always release the request upon the creation of it. So there are fine tuning activities which can be used. So now let me get back to the slide deck. Okay. The next important element that I would like to discuss is the projected material flow. Projected material flow provides detailed information about quantities of products at a specified time and location. The calculated quantities shown in the projected material flow view are based on the current inventory, including allocations, expected incoming materials and expected outgoing materials. In the system, let's quickly look at the projected material flow. So let me just go to the projected material flow, and we will take one of the existing products. If you see, I am taking this product called as P100401, and system will give me a snapshot of what is the inventory available. System tells me there is an inventory of 103 units available and some stock is allocated. It also tells me a snapshot of what is the inventory available and how the demand elements are actually consuming the stock. This is important for the user to understand, okay, how the component inventory or the finished good inventory is getting tied with other execution documents. In the production order, one point I would like to touch upon in the execution of production order is, let me just execute the production order. We also have an option called as a stock and demand overview. Before you want to release the production order, there is a provision in the system where you can look at the stock and demand situation of the components. In other words, to understand whether you have enough components in the inventory for you to perform the action. You can check that stock and demand overview and then release it to the next level. We discussed on the slide, but this is the place where you can see it on the UI. The final slide of this unit is primarily the replenishment and removal process. Replenishment can be used to replenish raw materials to the production supply area or replenish the picking area with inventory from the high rack. Removal can be used to move finished goods from the production output area to the warehouse. There are primarily three ways to trigger replenishment and removal. 1. Manual replenishment and removal. 2. Automated and scheduled replenishment and removal with the help of automated runs. And finally, replenishment with reference. Due to dearth of time, we will not be getting into the demo of these systems, but please understand these are the functions which will help the user in replenishing the quantities at a particular logistic area or removing the quantities from a certain logistic area. With that, we come to the end of Unit 4. To quickly summarize, in this unit, we learned the following. Understand the production execution and its automation capabilities. Understand projected material flow and understand at a high level what do you mean by replenishment and removal. In the next unit, we will take deep dive onto design function and resource load leveling options. Let's meet there. Until then, goodbye.